What is the best way to feed pond fish, different species in the same pond if you want to use the aquanets?
Well, I'll tell you what, in today's world now, people have feeding strategies. You know, I've got a lake I manage in North Carolina where we really do want to feed the baby fish, but we don't want the big fish coming in and gobbling up all that feed. So what we do there is we feed the bigger fish out in the water a little further. We'll set the feeders on a platform, and then we let that feeder go off first, and then the big fish are attracted to that. Then we feed the smaller fish a smaller fish food along the shoreline in shallower water. Another strategy, let's say that you've got catfish in a pond with bluegills and you want to feed them both, but you really don't want those catfish gobbling up that more expensive feed because they don't really need that sport fish feed. They're fine with pond fish. Well, use the pond fish, set it off, set your feeder to go off at whatever time you want, and let those catfish start coming in, kind of check how long it takes them to start coming in, and then have another feeder 100 yards away and set that feeder off to go off like 4 or 5 minutes after this first feeder. Your bluegill will flock to that feeder and the catfish will come to this one. So there's different strategies. I'll tell you another strategy we've used. I had a guy call me one time and he said, hey, I want to grow the biggest bluegill I can as fast as I can. And all I could find him were fingerlings about that long. Well, he had about a 20-acre lake. He bought 4 feeders and we set those feeders up in a row. And we had them go off twice a day. The first feeder went off, and then the second feeder went off 15 minutes later, the third one went off 15 minutes later, the fourth one went off 15 minutes later. We found that there were feed hogs, fish that were more aggressive that went from feeder to feeder to feeder to feeder, and those fish grew like crazy. They were about that big after 6 months, where the rest of the fish were like that. So giving those fish that want to feed more an opportunity to feed more, that worked in that case. So I would plot out a strategy based on that kind of thing.